Dead by Daylight is heading into its 10th year anniversary, and because of that, the community is starting to speculate about everything. New licenses, new chapters, big updates, anniversary rewards, maybe a huge surprise announcement. And one theory I've seen that has been floating around a lot recently is the idea that Dead by Daylight could finally go free to play. And honestly, my answer to that is maybe? It's complicated, because on one hand, I understand why people think this could happen. Dead by Daylight is a 10-year-old game. It has a massive amount of DLCs, a massive cosmetic store, pretty much a battle pass, rift pass, whatever you want to call it, limited time connections, and limited time collections, licensed characters, original characters, and at this point, the base game itself is probably not where most of the money is coming from. But on the other hand, going free to play opens up a whole different can of worms, and with DBD specifically, a can of worms has a flashlight background player and somehow knows where you're at all times. We're talking about hackers. So today I want to talk about whether Dead by Daylight could be free to play, why it could make sense, why it could be risky, and why some of the arguments against it is fair, while others are respectfully insane. So let's start with why people even think this could happen in the first place. As we all know, Dead by Daylight is entering its 10th year anniversary, and Behavior has made it very clear that this is going to be a big year. They've talked about the next 10 years of DBD, major licenses, big swings, and celebrating the game in a way that feels bigger than a normal anniversary, as it should be. So when you combine that with a Steam page refresh, anniversary marketing, big community hype, and the fact that DBD is an older live service game, I can understand why people start connecting all of the dots. And from a business perspective, free-to-play does make sense in some ways. The base game is old. That's not an insult by any means. It is an old game. It's literally true. DBD came out in 2016. Most games from 2016s either are already free, died out, got sequels, or barely even talked anymore. DBD is one of those few games from that era that still has something going for them, still getting major chapters, huge licenses, and still pulling in new players. The problem is, when a player looks at DBD today, the base game is the only entry fee. Once you get in, there's so many killers, survivors, perks, cosmetics, chapters, additions, packs, rifts, and currencies that actually make the cost of getting into DBD a way bigger price than the base game. I think we're talking about like $300 to $400 to even $500 to get just all the DLC. And that's why I think the argument for free to play is pretty simple. Remove the smallest barrier, let people download the game for free, get them into the fog, get them hooked on the gameplay, and then if they like it, they'll start buying those characters and skins and chapters and whatever else that they want. That's basically how games like Fortnite, Apex, Valorant, Warzone, and most modern live service games work. The game itself is free, the content, cosmetics, battle passes, and extras are the premium that you're paying for. And with DBD, it's not like the game is lacking things to sell. Just joining in, you have Halloween for, well, not really. But Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Stranger Things, FNAF, The Walking Dead, Tokyo Ghoul, and so much more. There are original killers and survivors as well. There are cosmetics for days. There's the rifts, there's the event skins, there's legendary outfits. There's so many different collaborations. Just, again, no Halloween. So when people say DBD should go free to play, I don't see why. It's really a crazy thing to say. The game already has a monetization structure of a free to play game in a lot of ways. But then we got to talk about the other side. We have our first major complaint, which is probably the funniest one to me. People saying, well, if DBD goes free to play, I want my money back. Which is crazy to me. No, you're not getting your money. I'm sorry, no. And I don't even mean that to be rude. Maybe a little bit, maybe just a tiny bit. But when you buy a game, you're buying access to the game at that point in time. You're not buying a lifetime guarantee that nobody else will ever get a better deal than you. You know what I mean? It's like buying a movie ticket. If you watch the movie in the theaters, and then 2 years later, it's on a streaming service, you can't go back to AMC and, hey, excuse me, I paid $18 for this. I want my money back. It doesn't work like that. They would look at you like you paid for the experience when you wanted the experience. You got to play the game earlier. You got your hours on it. You got your memories, your rage moments, your flashlight saves, your basement bubbles, whatever the case may be. That was the product. And DBD specifically has gone on sale a million times. It has free weekends. It's free to claim on Epic Game a few years ago. It has been playable through subscription services and free play period. So the idea that anyone paid full price and got scammed out of the game eventually goes... So the idea that people are getting scammed if the game eventually goes free to play is just not realistic. And also, let's be honest, a lot of the people have thousands of hours in these games. Even if you have 10 hours in the game, you paid $20 for DBD and played 2,000 hours or 100 hours, you got your money's worth so hard that the game probably owes you therapy because of the amount of stress it has put you through. Now, do I think behavior could give veteran players something in return when the game goes free to play? Absolutely. That would be cool. I think that'd actually be smart. If anything, hey, you bought our games not free to play. Everybody that's here, take something, take a cool charm, take a cool banner, maybe even some more extras. You never know. That's the thing with DBD, and I hope they pick up on it. Perception matters. This is just business, right? It's business at the end of the day. People will be happy. Something small, a nice token that they can do. If they announce free to play and gave existing players nothing, people would probably freak out and there will probably be some backlash, and I get it. Some of that, which would more than likely be over dramatic, but you still don't want your anniversary announcement to turn into a Reddit firestorm and a PR disaster, as most things in the community ends up happening to. So in the cleanest version, if you make the game free to play, get some better onboarding, and give a thank you package to some of the veterans before the game transitions. But that was probably the smallest concern. We need to talk about the bigger concerns, and one of the major ones is cheaters. This is the one argument against free-to-play that I think is completely fair, and I'm completely on board with as well, because every time this topic comes up, the #1 response is pretty much, please don't. It's already bad enough with cheaters. And I completely get it. If DBD goes free to play, there's a real chance that cheating becomes a bigger issue. When a game costs money, even if it is just 10 or 20 bucks, there's still some kind of barrier. It's not the perfect barrier, but it does exist. If the game is free to play, cheaters make more accounts really fast, Smurfs can make new accounts faster, banned players can come back easier. You know how it is. You can just use a disposable account and you have no strings attached. That is a real problem. But I also think we need to be a little bit honest about something here. The people who are seriously cheating in DBD, they already have ways to go around the cost of the game. It's not something that is actually stopping them. They use alt accounts, they have free-to-play copies from alt giveaways, whatever the case may be, there's a way that they get these accounts and they get them injected. They do whatever they want, whatever gremlin activity cheaters do to make sure that they're getting the game. Free-to-play would probably make cheating worse, but the question is not, would free-to-play create more cheaters? The question is, DBD's anti-cheat and account security strong enough to handle the game becoming free-to-play? Right now, I think it's a real issue because DBD has had cheating waves in the past. Behavior has talked about it before, and it's been an ongoing battle, as with any live service game, but it has been a long, ongoing battle. Cheaters and developers are always going back and forth. The devs patch something, and then cheaters find a way to do something else. The devs fix another vulnerability, and the cycle just keeps going. And it's not just for DBD, it's for any live service game out there. I do not think it's just simple as getting better easy anti-cheat, as a lot of people say that don't know too much about it. I wish it was that easy, but it's not. That would be lovely. Just press the big red button, no more cheaters, call it a day, right? Fortunately, it doesn't work like that. But DBD should definitely have some stronger security if they ever did want to go free to play. Maybe not for the 10th year, but at some point in time. That could mean better account verification, stronger detection, faster bans, better server-side checks, stricter handling on suspicious accounts, better protection for their streamers especially, and more consistent action when players submit reports with evidence. To me, there's a way that they can do it. I won't get too in-depth into it. It's ideas I've talked about before, and I think there's avenues. And I'm going to give you a little bit too of my own personal experience. I have played DBD for basically the entire life of the game, and personally, I've not run into a crazy amount of blatant hackers. Maybe there were some subtle ones that I didn't know about, and I know some of my content creator friends have been heavily targeted, which is terrible, and I'm not downplaying that at all. But for me personally, across the 10 years that I've played DBD, I could probably count the most obvious hackers on my two hands. I think I've run into hackers maybe 6 or 7 times. And I think for the average player, I don't think you're running into hackers every single match. I think some people will definitely be outliers depending on region, MMR platform, time of day, or just plain old bad luck. But I also don't think DBD is unplayable for the average person because of cheaters. That being said, free-to-play definitely could change that, and I think that's why behavior would need to be really careful if they end up doing something like this. If DBD went free-to-play overnight with no extra protections, I think the community would panic, and honestly, I wouldn't blame them, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, another argument people bring up is pricing. People worry that if DBD goes free to play, the prices of skin, DLCs, and org cells will go up. And this is where I think things get a little bit scary, because technically they could do that. They could say, hey, the base game's now free, so cosmetics are gonna be a little bit more expensive. Maybe skins go up by $1. Maybe bundles become a little bit more aggressive. And maybe the store becomes more of a FOMO thing. And I think a lot of us would hate that. I don't think we'd be on board with that. DBD players, we pretty much fairly complain about monetization and complain. I say that as just a word. And I think it's fair to say these things. This is a paid game with paid DLC, paid cosmetic, paid premium currencies, the Rift Pass. So if the game goes free to play and prices go up, people are going to immediately say, so you made the game free, but now everything else costs more. What the hell's going on? Such a smart move here, behavior. Thanks. And I get it. For people that have been adjusted and welcoming these prices, it'd be a kick in the face. The best version of free-to-play is not making everything more expensive. The best version is getting more players in and making money because more players are buying things, not because every individual person is being squeezed harder. That's the healthy version of it. If anything, things could go cheaper. And I'm not even saying that to be an exaggeration. And we've seen them do this before with older DLCs going cheaper. Look, if the game goes free to play, the goal should be volume. More players, more friends join, more lobbies. And then you're like, hey, I want to buy my favorite killer. I want to grab a cool skin. I want to stick around more in this game, so let me buy something. And that's where DBD has the huge advantage. The game itself is hard to explain to people from the outside. You can say it's a 4v1 horror game where one killer hunts survivors, but people get the basic idea. They don't really understand DBD. DBD is one of those games that just captivates you. And if you really like it, you're going to spend 1,000 hours in this and still be called a noob. The point is DBD sells itself better than people actually can. And that's where the biggest pro for free-to-play actually comes from. It makes it so much easier to bring in new players. Right now, if you tell your friend about DBD, they probably don't want to pay for it, even if it's a chapter that they're really looking forward to, because there's a billion perks. There's so many killers. There's so many maps, items, offerings, blood webs, prestige builds, statuses. There's so much. But if the game is free to play, they might give it a chance and not necessarily have that super rough first impression. And that's also where DBD can make a better first impression, which I'm hoping they do better tutorials and better onboarding. That's for another time. There are tons and tons of things that they can improve upon, and making prices maybe cheaper, making the tutorial and the onboarding better, improving the store. While you're there in the store, make sure you're using code KING if you're getting yourself some org cells, or if you just want to input it to show some support, you're more than welcome to do so. Anyone that puts my code into the store, I almost said their code, anyone that puts my code into the store, even if you don't buy anything, make sure you're joining up our Discord, showing a screenshot of you doing so, and you'll be entered into this month's giveaway. I'm going to the Dead by Daylight Montreal event, and I also have Dead by Daylight YouTubes, a ton of them that I want to give back to you guys, so by all means, head on over to our Discord, show a screenshot, and you'll be entered in this month's giveaway to win that. So, should Dead by Daylight go free to play for the 10th anniversary? Would it be a huge win for the game, or would it turn DBD into Dead by cheaters? Let me know your thoughts, comments, and opinions down in the comments down below. At the end of the day, your opinion is what matters the most. I think Dead by Daylight could work in free to play. I think it's very complicated and there's a lot of things that they need to do to execute it properly, but having a higher volume of players coming into the game and then making things potentially cheaper could be the right way to go, especially if they have better anti-cheat. But as always, I'm the king. I tip my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog.